There's something about older games that simply refuses to fade with time. The emotions they evoked, their visual impact, the feeling of experiencing something truly special, all of it remains alive, even after so many years. Many of these titles defy the clock, whether through art styles that still captivate or mechanics so well designed they feel modern even today. It's no exaggeration to say that several of them would fit perfectly into today's gaming landscape. In this video, we're revisiting classic titles from the past that remain just as engaging, playable, and impressive as the day they were released. Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands. When people talk about the perfect parkour in gaming, they often forget that Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands was doing things in 2010 that modern action adventures still struggle to replicate with all their modern hardware. What makes this game age so gracefully is its mechanical purity and its refusal to follow the bloated open world trend. It is a focused, rhythmic platformer that uses elemental powers to manipulate the environment in real time, creating a puzzle platforming hybrid that feels incredibly modern. The visual hook of freezing water to turn fountains into climbable pillars or waterfalls into solid walls still looks like a technical marvel. Unlike modern titles that rely on scripted yellow ledge climbing, Forgotten Sands demands precision and timing. The fluid animations of the prince, how he transitions from a wall run to a leap with a sense of momentum and weight, are arguably smoother than many AAA titles released in 2025. The lighting in the Palace of Azad, with its warm glows and dusty corridors, creates an Arabian Nights atmosphere that remains evocative and clean, avoiding the visual noise that plagues contemporary games. It humbles modern titles by proving that a tight 10-hour experience with innovative mechanics is far more valuable and memorable than a 100-hour game filled with empty space. Serious Sam 3 BFE. In an era where many shooters feel like they're playing themselves with magnetic aim, health regeneration, and heavily scripted set pieces, Serious Sam 3 BFE stands out as a monument to raw, unfiltered gameplay. Released in 2011, the Serious Engine 3.5 was a beast, capable of rendering hundreds of enemies on screen at once without the game breaking a sweat. The scale of the battlefields in Egypt is still staggering today. What humbles modern titles here is the lack of smoke and mirrors. When you see a wave of 300 clear skeletons charging across a massive desert plain, those are real 3D models with individual AI pathing, not a background video or a 2D sprite trick. The lighting and texture work on the ancient ruins have a crispness and a physicality that many modern shooters lose by overusing motion blur and aggressive post-processing to hide performance issues. It is a game that relies entirely on your skill, your circle strafing, and your ability to manage absolute chaos. Playing it in 2026 is a wake-up call. It reminds us that true next-gen power should be used for massive scale encounters and physics-based destruction, not just for prettier reflections and puddles. Battlefield 3. It is almost terrifying to realize that Battlefield 3 was released in 2011, because if you fire it up today on a high-end PC, it still looks and sounds better than most military shooters released in the last few years. This was the debut of Frostbite 2, and the technical leap it represented was so massive that the industry is still trying to catch up. The audio design alone humbles the competition. The way a sniper shot echoes differently in a concrete alley versus an open field, or the terrifying crack of a supersonic bullet passing your head, is a level of acoustic detail that 2026 games often ignore in favor of generic sound libraries. But the visuals are the real star. The high-contrast, blue-tinted aesthetic gave the game a filmic look that feels premium and gritty. The destruction physics, where cover isn't just a static prop, but something that can be chipped away at by small arms fire or leveled by a tank, creates a dynamic battlefield that feels dangerous and alive. Modern sequels have often scaled back this destruction to save on console performance, but Battlefield 3 went all in. It remains a masterclass in atmosphere, proving that when you get the feel of warfare right, the technology becomes secondary to the immersion. Ryse, Son of Rome. If you ever needed proof that superior art direction and a powerhouse engine can defy the aging process, look no further than Ryse, Son of Rome. Originally a 2013 launch title, this game still looks like it could be a flagship release for the PS5 Pro or a high-end PC today. Crytek's mastery of the CryEngine allowed them to push a level of character fidelity that is still a benchmark. The facial animations of Marius Titus, the way the sunlight glints off his individual Roman armor plates, and the realistic mud and blood splatters that accumulate on his shield are simply breathtaking. What humbles modern games is the filmic quality of the image. It doesn't suffer from the fizzing pixels or shimmering often found in modern titles that rely too heavily on DLSS or FSR to hit a playable frame rate. Every execution and every shield bash has a weight and a visual impact that feels visceral. While it was criticized for being linear, every second of that journey is a graphical showcase of what happens when developers focus on quality over quantity. It didn't just meet the next-gen standard of 2013, it set a bar so high that most of the industry in 2026 is still struggling to clear it. Resident Evil Remake. When we talk about games that humiliate time itself, we have to talk about the 2002 Resident Evil Remake. This game is a masterclass in how to use technical limitations to create a visual masterpiece. By using pre-rendered backgrounds, Capcom was able to pour an unthinkable amount of detail into every single frame, creating a level of photorealism that many full 3D games in 2026 still can't match. Every room in the Spencer Mansion is a painting. The way the lightning flashes outside a window and illuminates a dusty hallway, or how the shadows of a ceiling fan dance across a blood-stained carpet, creates an atmosphere of pure, suffocating dread. The character models of Jill and Chris feature subtle animations and skin shaders that were decades ahead of their time. But what really puts modern horror to shame is the fixed camera. It turns the game into a directed cinematic experience, controlling exactly what you see, and more importantly, what you don't see. It's a reminder that next gen isn't always about more polygons. It's about art direction, lighting, and a total commitment to atmosphere. Even 24 years later, this remains the definitive way to experience survival horror. Gears of War 3. In 2011, Epic Games squeezed every last drop of power out of the Xbox 360 to deliver Gears of War 3, and the results still look phenomenal today. While modern shooters often feel floaty, Gears 3 has a sense of physical weight and chunkiness that makes every movement feel significant. The Unreal Engine 3 was pushed to its absolute limit here, delivering vibrant colors and massive scale set pieces that defy the hardware it was running on. What humbles modern titles is the tactile nature of the combat. When you rev that Lancer and cut through a lambent enemy, the particle effects, the camera shake, and the visceral sound design create a feedback loop that feels more satisfying than almost any shooter released in the last 5 years. The lighting, especially in the sun-drenched ruins of Char, has a warm, golden quality that feels atmospheric without needing complex ray tracing. It's a polished, feature-complete package that included a massive campaign, Horde mode, and Beast mode right out of the box. It reminds us of a time when games were finished at launch and built to be visual spectacles through clever engineering and sheer artistic will. Sleeping Dogs is the perfect example of why a dense, culturally rich city is always better than a massive, empty map.
Released in 2012, this game's depiction of Hong Kong is still one of the most atmospheric urban environments in gaming history. When the sun sets and the rain starts to fall, the city transforms into a neon-soaked masterpiece that rivals the ray tracing showcases of today. The way the light reflects off the wet asphalt and how the puddles ripple as you sprint through a crowded night market is breathtaking. But what really puts modern open-world GTA clones to shame is the combat. Mixing martial arts with environmental finishers makes every fight feel like a scene from a John Wick or Donnie Yen movie. The animations are brutal, fluid, and carry a sense of impact that modern games often trade for floaty RPG mechanics. It humiliates the competition by proving that you don't need 1,000 icons on a map to keep a player engaged. You just need a world that feels lived in, a combat system that feels empowering, and a visual style that understands the beauty of a rain-slicked neon street. Doom 3. Back in 2004, Doom 3 was a technical horror story that required the most powerful PCs on the planet to run, and that ambition is exactly why it still looks incredible today. This was id Software's unified lighting and shadowing showcase. Before Doom 3, shadows were mostly faked or baked into textures. Here, every single light source is dynamic and casts real-time stenciled shadows. This creates a high-contrast chiaroscuro look that hides the monsters in literal darkness, making your flashlight your most important tool. What humbles modern horror games is how Doom 3 uses its engine to create a sense of mechanical dread. The way the machinery in the Mars base moves, the hiss of the steam, and the way the flickering lights interact with the industrial textures create a tangible sense of place. While modern games often use soft, global illumination that can look a bit washed out, Doom 3 embraces the darkness with sharp, aggressive shadows that give the image a crisp, comic book horror look that refuses to age. It's a masterclass in technical focus, proving that if you pick one thing to do perfectly, in this case lighting, your game will remain a visual benchmark for decades.
Styx, Master of Shadows, released in 2014 by Cyanide Studio, is a masterclass in vertical level design and specialized lighting that humbles many of today's generalist stealth games. While modern titles often give players too many gadgets, making stealth feel trivial, Styx relies on a pure light and shadow mechanic that is visually communicated with incredible clarity. The Tower of Akenash is a marvel of architectural scale. The way the sunlight filters through massive Gothic windows to create safe zones of deep shadow is a technical feat that doesn't need a 40 series GPU to look stunning. What truly humbles modern games is the character animation and weight of the protagonist. As a goblin, Styx moves with a jittery, tactile precision, and his interactions with the environment, clinging to ledges or hiding in barrels, feel physically grounded. The textures of the stone and wood have a hand-painted quality that avoids the sterile, procedurally generated look of many modern 2026 assets. It's a game that knows exactly what it wants to be, a dark, atmospheric, and punishingly fair stealth experience that uses its art direction to create a world far more memorable than any generic open-world forest we've seen lately.
Deus Ex: Human Revolution. In 2011, Eidos Montreal gave us a vision of the year 2027 that remains one of the most aesthetically cohesive experiences in gaming history. Deus Ex: Human Revolution opted for a bold, cyber-renaissance gold and black color palette that remains visually striking over a decade later. This specific artistic choice allows the game to defy the aging process. While other games from 2011 tried and failed at photorealism, Human Revolution looks like a high-end concept art piece come to life. The environmental storytelling is dense. Every office desk and apartment in Detroit or Hengsha tells a story through cluttered assets and atmospheric lighting. What humbles modern RPGs is the systemic depth hidden within its visuals. Vents aren't just decorative, they are functional paths that reveal the incredible thoughtfulness of the level design. The pre-rendered cutscenes and the sharp, angular character designs give the game a unique identity that modern, realistic shooters often lack. It reminds us that a strong, unified art style is the best insurance against the passage of time, creating an immersive cyberpunk world that still feels like a glimpse into a high-tech, low-life future.
Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception from 2011 is where they pushed technical sorcery to its absolute limit. This game humbles modern titles through its sheer cinematic ambition and its physics-based set pieces. The plane crash in the Rub al Khali Desert and the sinking cruise ship are not just video clips, they are complex moving levels where the geometry and the lighting are shifting in real time as the world falls apart around Nathan Drake. The sand tech in Uncharted 3 remains a benchmark. The way sand deforms under Nate's feet and how the light scatters through the dunes is a level of detail that many 2026 games still struggle to get right. The character performances, driven by top-tier motion capture and hand-keyed facial animations, carry an emotional weight and a humanity that modern AI-generated animations often miss. It is a polished, breathtaking adventure that proves that when you have world-class talent and a clear vision, you can create a spectacle that remains jaw-dropping for generations.
Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Released in 2014, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor didn't just give us a great Lord of the Rings game, it introduced the Nemesis system, a technical innovation that many modern open worlds are still too afraid to attempt. What makes this game age so well is its visual hierarchy. The orc captains are procedurally generated with unique scars, armor, and personalities that make them feel like real rivals rather than generic NPCs. When an orc remembers you from a previous battle and shows off a prosthetic arm you gave him, it creates a visual narrative that is far more engaging than any scripted, next-gen side quest. Technically, the game is a beast. The combat animations are incredibly fluid, allowing Talion to flow through dozens of enemies with a rhythmic grace that puts modern clunky Souls-likes to shame. The wet, muddy environments of Mordor utilize high-quality surface shaders that make the rain-slicked stones and rusted iron look tangible and grim. It's a game that used its power not just for pretty graphics, but for a complex, reactive system that makes the world feel alive, humbling the static, lifeless worlds of many modern 2026 releases.
Batman: Arkham City. Rocksteady's Batman: Arkham City is the rare 2011 title that hasn't just aged well, it has become a textbook for how to design an atmospheric open world. What humbles modern superhero games is the environmental density. Arkham City isn't a massive, procedurally generated map. It is a handcrafted prison district where every rooftop and every gothic gargoyle feels intentionally placed. The art direction uses a wet noir aesthetic that still looks incredible on modern displays, with snow falling and melting realistically against Batman's cape. Speaking of the cape, the cloth physics in this game are still a gold standard, reacting to the wind and the velocity of your glide with a grace that many 2026 titles fail to replicate. The free-flow combat animations are so sharp and carry such physical weight that modern clones often feel floaty and unresponsive by comparison. It is a game that understands that being Batman isn't just about the suit, it's about the atmosphere of Gotham, a dark, brooding, and technically impeccable vision that remains the definitive Dark Knight experience.
Titanfall 2.
Released in 2016, Titanfall 2 is a masterpiece of technical optimization and creative level design that makes modern live service shooters look like unfinished prototypes. The Source engine was pushed to its absolute limit here, delivering a rock-solid 60 frames per second with a level of visual clarity that is rare in today's world of blurry upscaling. What humbles the competition is the kinetic visuals. The wall running and sliding animations are so perfectly tuned that the transition between Pilot and Titan feels seamless and powerful. The campaign mission Effect and Cause, which allows you to shift between two time periods instantly, is a technical marvel that happens without a single loading screen, a feat that many next-gen games still use as a primary selling point. The sense of scale, the mechanical detail on the Titans, and the vibrant alien skyboxes create a sci-fi world that feels expansive and polished. It is a reminder that when you prioritize gameplay feel and technical stability over microtransactions, you create a timeless classic that feels faster and smoother than anything on the market today.
Infamous Second Son. It is almost hard to believe that Infamous Second Son was a 2014 launch title for the PlayStation 4 because even in 2026, it remains a graphical showcase. Sucker Punch's mastery of particle effects is the real humiliator here. The way neon, smoke, and digital embers explode across the screen with thousands of individual light-emitting particles is a fireworks show that many modern titles are still afraid to attempt. The wet Seattle look, with its rain-slicked streets reflecting the neon signs through high-quality screen space reflections, created a ray tracing aesthetic years before the hardware even supported it. The facial capture for Delsin Rowe is incredibly expressive, capturing subtle smirks and micro-expressions that make modern AI-generated faces look robotic. It is a vibrant, fast-paced, and technically flawless game that proves what happens when a developer knows their hardware inside and out. It humbles the modern era by being over a decade old while still looking like it was built for the consoles of tomorrow.
Looking at these 15 games, it's clear that new doesn't always mean better. These titles didn't just rely on the latest hardware, they relied on strong art direction, innovative mechanics, and a level of technical polish that seems to be disappearing in favor of rushed release dates and lazy optimization. The clock may move forward, but the quality of these experiences remains fixed. So, which of these games do you think aged the best? Is there a classic that you still play today because modern titles just can't capture that same magic? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear about the games that still hold a special place on your hard drive.